More and more, as I attended Liebler's class, and this went on for about a year, I realized that the Zapruder film was held the biggest potential challenge to my view that the body had been altered. Because the Zapruder film showed the back of the head blacked out. Or it showed no, let's put it this way, it showed no wound there. And so the question became, why was this? Was there no wound there? Were all the Dallas doctors wrong? Which is the better evidence? The Dallas doctors who saw the body right away or the film? Well, most laymen would say it would be the film. If you have a picture taken in Dealey Plaza and it shows there's no wound there, then all the doctors must be wrong. And that's the story you'll hear, and I've heard from Vincent Bugliosi or Tink Thompson or whoever, not Tink Thompson, I'll take that back, Vincent Bugliosi and other people who will argue against the existence of the Dallas observations by citing the Zapruder film. So I knew very early on that this was really important. So what are we going to do about this? How are you going to get hold of this film? Because now I had another...
It's a little bit transparent. There's a little bit of transparency there, so you can actually see Jack's colour one coming through. You see it's sort of greenish here, and where there's no Jack one, it's just grey. And this one covers a far taller. You see right up here and right down here. The buildings, you notice, are vertical now because I've set it all to the vertical, the horizontal plane. There's Jack's one poking through the middle there, and everything matches up very nicely. If you actually overlay the two and flick between them, there are very tiny differences in some places, which probably amount to inches of movement, and that matching up at the end is not quite perfect. The one... Well...
really still thinking maybe on the film itself, the actual film that went through, you're going to see what the Dallas doctors saw. Why shouldn't you? They saw the body 4 minutes later.
What Jack found most fascinating was how many of these lamp poles, and we're talking, remember here, we're talking this accuracy is very, very tight. If you looked at where these things match up, I mean this building and this thing all matches up perfectly. So when you see that the lamp pole was there and they moved it to there, this lamp pole was there and was there and now it's there, and you know, now there's one there. This one's been moved, that one's been moved. Most of the lamp poles have been moved, and in fact, when we were down there, Jack made me take photographs of all of the. You look at the concrete where the lamp poles were originally in, and there's one obvious place where it came from, where there's holes, you know, 4 holes and a circular piece of concrete. But then there's another patch to the side of it, which is a big rectangular piece, which could well have been, you know, versions 1, 2, and 3, and the hole is version 4, and the current one is version 5. There seems to be a public works program in place to regularly move things around. I'll let this pan back around and I'll tell the best story. Oh, actually, no.
Seen here is the famous Polaroid photo of the assassination taken by Mary Moorman and her friend Jean Hill. It is believed to be one of the few photos from Dealey Plaza that is untampered with. The lines of sight in this photo can determine within inches where Mary was located when she snapped the shutter. What difference does it make where Mary was standing? Well, because the Zapruder film shows a precise spot 2 feet south of the curb where she stands as she shot the photo. That's why. So what difference does it make? Well, if Mary was in the street, she would be about 4 feet closer to Zapruder and approximately a foot lower. In Zapruder, if she was standing in the street, she would look like the image I fabricated at the right. Here are Jim and David finding the exact line of sight with the surveyor's transit. I have overlaid images of Mary from Zapruder on the line of sight. I did it both 2 feet south of the curb and 2 feet north of the curb. You can see that she is normal size in the street and a midget on the grass, since her lens must be just 41.5 inches above the grass, according to the studies that Jim and David did. Because a film from the knoll would have hidden the shoes of Mary and Jean behind the limo if they were standing in the street, The fabricators of the film had to guess at their shoe colors. What they didn't know was that earlier that morning, using the same camera, Gene and Mary had taken photographs of each other, and we see their shoes in both photos. When the animators moved the two women onto the grass, they gave both women white shoes. Earlier snapshots that you see here showed them to be both wearing black shoes, another proof of fakery.
Measurements here, and my position is that her camera was, where's my belly button? Her camera was about here. So I'm half, Jack has her down here and I've got her here, and I don't know if she's really that short. I have to check. Maybe she's that short and the camera can be that low. But we're measuring things there, and I said to Jack, what are those washers for? He says, what washers? What washers? And we're walking past the back of this lamp pole. This is the 2002. And at the bottom of the lamp pole, between that lamp pole and that piece of concrete that it's mounted on, there were like 4 washers, you know, about that diameter washers, stacked up, and the lamp pole was sitting on them, and they're sort of half sticking out. And Jack says, oh, well, they're probably just balancing up the light pole so that it's not leaning. I said, oh, that's interesting. So I looked around the lamp pole, and there's the same stack of washers all the way around, and underneath, and I got some photos, washers. So I got a measurement, 1 inch. They and the poles all have numbers on them, so I can just imagine Gary Mack rings up and says pole number 2915, raise it by 1 inch, because Jack just took another photo, and we want to just. It really is bizarre. It really is bizarre. Why do you raise a lamp pole by 1 inch?
I asked Casco if I can use his letterhead and write a letter to Life magazine that we want to buy the film for $1 million. So this letter goes out. We'll send the Zapruder film or this box of materials out to California, because we told him that in order to appraise the film, I left this part out of the story, to appraise the film, we have to have this film looked at by our appraisers. Of course, the appraisers were David Lifton and Fred Newcomb and a guy named Dennis Roy and a guy who's now passed away, Jack Clementi, who is an expert in optics from Lake China Naval Air Station in China Lake in California. And Jack was a good friend of mine. So,
while the Mafia no doubt put up some of the shooters, they could not have extended their reach into Bethesda Naval Hospital to alter X-rays under control of the agents of the Secret Service, nor could the KGB, although it had the same ability to alter a film as the CIA and Hollywood, been able to get its hands on a Zapruder film. Nor, of course, could any of these things have been done by Lee Oswald, who was either incarcerated or already dead. When you add all these considerations together and realize that there are more than 15 indications of Secret Service complicity in setting the man up from the hit, including that the manhole covers were not welded down, the crowd was allowed to spill out into the street, the open windows were not covered, it was an improper route, the motorcycle patrolmen were ordered to stay behind the rear wheels of the limousine, which they said was the most damnedest formation they'd ever been instructed.
now I did not share with other people in the room except Jack what my hypothesis was about wound alteration. We get to the wounds, and I'm stunned because everybody was saying at the moment, the wounds looked painted on. It looked weird. Right away you could see it. You have to be an expert to see that something's wrong with these wounds. People have written books and chapters about the blob and how it looks, and there's the back of the head blacked out on the film. And I'm saying, what the hell is going on here? How did they manage to do that? Who is they? How did this work?
Most tellingly, in my opinion, the vehicles were all in the wrong order. The presidential limousine should have been in the middle. They changed the order and put the presidential limousine first. They canceled a flatbed truck that would have had reporters riding in front of the presidential limousine. It was just canceled. The military officer, his chief aide, who would normally have ridden in the front seat of the limousine between the driver and the agent in charge, was moved to the last limousine. The president's personal physician was put in the last limousine. If that military aide had been in place, it would have been impossible for that shot to have gone through the windshield and hit Jack Kennedy, because there would have been an intervening body.
Several witnesses saw a bullet hole in the windshield. The official story denies it, but Altgen 6 seems to show a hole right near the rearview mirror, which from the South Knoll lines up perfectly with JFK. A shot from the front disputes the official story and the Z film.
when the stuff went back in the box that day,